A billionaire, but wicked to the bones, every fiber of him generated fire. He knocked her down for reasons unimaginable. He kicked her, humiliated her at every given chance. He was brutal, fierce. One could say that this billionaire was vicious like a tiger and proud like a warthog. They called him Chief Zach Obafemi, the untouchable billionaire. A man whose voice could make presidents tremble and whose wealth could bend nations. In the marble halls of his mansion, he ruled like a god. His staff were shadows. His housekeeper, Roseline, was barely a whisper, a girl with tired eyes and silent pain. He never imagined she was watching. He never guessed she was learning. And he certainly never believed that the girl scrubbing his floors would one day own the very ground he walked on. But fate, like fire, burns in silence before it roars. This is the story of a girl crushed under a man's power, until she rose, with scars like armor, and turned the man who once ruled over her into her servant. Every betrayal, every slap, every insult, she remembered. And when the time came, she didn't strike back with fists. She struck with destiny. Welcome to a tale of power reversed, of revenge served in silence, and of one woman's breathtaking rise, from broom to boardroom. Before the story begins, first subscribe to this channel and like this video. Ensure to turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss out on other interesting stories like this one. Now the story begins. The rain came down in sheets that evening, slapping hard against the high glass windows of the Obafemi estate. The city below flickered in gold and neon, indifferent to the sorrows carried within the towering mansion that loomed like a palace above Ikoyi. Somewhere in that mansion, in a cramped corner beside the laundry basement, a slender woman sat curled on a mat, peeling blisters from her calloused hands. Her name was Roseline. She wiped her eyes discreetly as she heard the sound of expensive shoes clicking toward the kitchen. There was only one person in this house who walked with that ruthless, sharp rhythm. "Where is the soup?" barked the voice before the man entered. Roseline scrambled to her feet. I'm still heating it, sir. Just another few minutes." "I said 7:30 p.m. sharp." "It's 7:42, said Chief Zach Obafemi, standing tall in his navy blue silk suit, his beard neatly carved like he owned time itself. His eyes, cold and calculating, swept over the kitchen like a general inspecting a failed army. "I'm sorry, sir." His hand shot out. Not to hit. But he grabbed the pot lid and hurled it across the floor. It clanged against the tiles, narrowly missing Roseline's foot. Her heart pounded in her chest. "You're a disgrace. Not even fit to sweep a gutter," he spat. She stood silent, eyes lowered. She had learned that defending herself only made things worse. Billionaires like Zach didn't hear excuses from people like her. "You were late last night too. Lazy girl. Do you want to go back to the slum you crawled out from?" he asked, now towering over her. "Do you?" She shook her head quickly. "No, sir. Please." "Then get it right, or I'll send you packing. And don't forget, I've not even paid you this month. I'm still doing you a favor." That was true. Roseline hadn't received her 20,000 naira salary in 2 months. But what choice did she have? The world outside the estate gates was crueler than the humiliation inside. After he stormed off, she exhaled slowly and turned back to the soup. Her hands trembled as she stirred. The pot of ogbono simmered quietly, mocking her silence. Later that night, in her windowless room beneath the staircase, she pulled out the only thing she owned of value, a worn paperback book titled The Wisdom of Kings. It was a gift from a woman in her church before she left the village. Inside the cover, in fading blue ink, the woman had written, "One day, you will rule." Roseline read those words every night like a prayer. She closed her eyes, whispering them into the shadows. Across the estate, Zach was in his study, sipping cognac and laughing over the phone. No, that new deal? We locked it. That idiot chairman had no clue I was playing him. I just promised his daughter a fake internship. And that new housekeeper? I think she stole my money. I will fire her soon anyway. Roseline heard everything. The office vent carried sounds when the house was silent. She sat up, burning. The next morning began like the others, with humiliation. Roseline stood beside the grand staircase holding a silver tray. Zach descended from the top floor wearing a deep burgundy robe, talking loudly on his phone. "I want that contract signed by noon. No excuses. Tell the minister I'll be at the fundraiser tonight and I expect his daughter beside me. Yes, the pretty one with the gap teeth." He ended the call and looked at Roseline with a sneer. "2 cubes. No sugar." "Yes, sir," she replied, already walking briskly to the kitchen. Before she could turn, he called after her, "And put on some lotion. You look like cracked leather." She kept walking. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her pain. While she brewed the tea, another voice entered the kitchen, older, hushed, concerned. "Roseline," whispered Mama Chisholm, the elderly cook who had worked in the house for over 15 years. Her eyes were gentle but tired. "I don't like the way he talks to you, and that man has no fear of God." "I'm just trying to survive, Mama," Roseline muttered. 3 months now. Not a single salary paid. "Why you still here then?" Roseline turned slowly, her voice low. "Because I'm watching." Mama Chisholm blinked. "Watching what?" Roseline's voice was so quiet it almost dissolved into the steam from the kettle. "His weakness." That evening, Roseline stayed late cleaning the study. Zach had gone out, drunk on his own power, headed to a political fundraiser in Victoria Island. She carefully placed his documents back on the desk, but something caught her eye, an envelope marked "Confidential, FG/Treasury Project." She hesitated, hands frozen. Then her fingers moved, gently sliding it open. Her eyes scanned the documents. Government fund transfers. Unapproved. Hidden accounts offshore. She gasped. That's when the study door creaked open. She turned, thinking it was Zach. It was someone else, a young man in a suit, equally shocked to see her. "You," he said. I was just cleaning." "What are you doing with that file?" "I wasn't reading it. She stammered. He stepped forward, grabbing the envelope and tucking it under his arm. "You didn't see anything," he said firmly. "Who are you?" Roseline asked, standing straight now, fire returning to her spine. He glanced at the hallway, then back. "I'm his lawyer. But I don't support what he does." Roseline studied him. Sharp features, clean cut, and something honest in his eyes. "Then why stay?" He looked away. "Because men like Zach bury people who leave with too much knowledge." They stared at each other for a long second. "What's your name?" she asked finally. "Ao. I'm Roseline." He nodded. "Be careful, Roseline. You're smart. Too smart to be trapped here." Ao came back several times over the next few weeks, always late at night, always looking nervous. And every time, Roseline was watching. They spoke in whispers in the laundry room. A strange bond grew, between a woman in rags and a man in tailored suits. They traded stories. He told her about the fraud, the bribes, the offshore accounts. She told him about the hidden vents that allowed her to hear everything from the master suite to the wine cellar. You know more about this man than I do, Ao said one night. Roseline smiled. I clean his dirt. One night, Ao passed her a flash drive. I've copied what I could. Bank statements. Signed fake contracts. Even video clips of meetings with known criminals. Roseline took it without hesitation. What do you plan to do with it? He asked. She looked him in the eyes. I'm going to become his worst mistake. Then came the breaking point. Zach had just returned from Dubai. He was furious, yelling at his phone, pacing in the foyer. You imbecile! How did that leak get out? Who leaked the figures to the press? Roseline dusted quietly nearby, listening. They're launching an investigation now? Into me? Into Obafemi Holdings. He threw his phone against the marble wall, shattering it. Roseline, he bellowed. She stepped forward, still calm. Yes, sir. Get my new phone from the top drawer. And next time I ask for wine, don't bring me vinegar. Are you trying to poison me? She didn't flinch. No, sir. He glared. You think just because you've lasted here this long, I won't throw you out? You're a replaceable broom. Her jaw clenched. Then maybe it's time someone used that broom to sweep you away. He stepped toward her, eyes bulging. What did you just say? She met his gaze, unafraid. Nothing, sir. He stared for a long moment, then turned away, muttering, God will punish poverty. Roseline smiled as he walked off. Because poverty was no longer her name. A few weeks later, a warrant was issued for Chief Zach's arrest. For money laundering. Conspiracy. But someone had tipped him off. He fled the country, barely escaping through private airspace. His mansion was raided, assets frozen. And Roseline? She had vanished. Only Ao knew where she'd gone. Only he knew that she had used the flash drive to contact the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, anonymously. And only he knew the new identity she had assumed. Miss Adeobi Okonkwo, the woman at the bank, greeted her a month later in London. Roseline nodded, dressed in a black power suit, a bob-cut wig, and a confidence she never had in Ikoyi. I'm here to finalize my ownership of the Obafemi offshore accounts. The woman hesitated. Ma, do you have authorization? Roseline passed over the signed forms, ones only the original owner or his legal proxy could use. And guess who had prepared them? The summer air in Casablanca was dry and biting. Chief Zach sat alone on the balcony of a rented villa, overlooking a quiet stretch of the Atlantic. He wore sunglasses even though it was night. Not out of style, but fear. He hadn't slept well in weeks. His offshore bank accounts had mysteriously locked. 2 properties in South Africa had been seized. One of his Swiss accounts showed an unexplainable wire transfer. $1.2 million vanished. Just gone. He reached for his burner phone and called a number. Ao, where the hell are you? Silence. Ao, don't mess with me. I trusted you. I need to know who's behind this. Is it the minister? That fool Olamide? Or is it that girl? The voice on the other end was calm. Which girl? The housekeeper. The nosy little roach. What's her name again? Amira. You mean Roseline, Ao said coolly. Zach paused. She's still alive, isn't she? I don't know. Find her. I swear, if she has anything to do with this. Ao's tone shifted. What would you do? Slap her again? Throw another pot lid at her head? Zach gritted his teeth. You watch your mouth, boy. I did watch. For years. And I saw what you are. The line went dead. Zach flung the phone into the sea. Back in London, Roseline stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her diamond earrings. The hotel suite smelled of vanilla and money. Ao sat on the edge of the bed, watching her with a strange mix of awe and disbelief. "You really played him," he said softly. Roseline turned, flawless in a midnight blue dress. "No. He played himself. I just collected the pieces." Ao chuckled. "You know, you're not the same woman who mopped that kitchen floor." "No," she said. "I buried her." They were silent for a moment. Then Ao stood and walked to her slowly. "So what now?" She turned to him fully, voice low and decisive. "I take the rest of his empire." In Nigeria, news spread like wildfire. OBSA Holdings was collapsing. Assets seized. Government officials distancing themselves. Protesters stood outside the gates of his Ikoyi mansion, now empty and rotting. Then, one morning, an announcement appeared in all major business papers. Holdings restructured under new executive leadership, Adeobi Roseline Holdings. The press was confused. "Who is this woman?" a journalist asked on national TV. "Where did she come from?" asked another. Rumors flew: mistress, relative, foreign investor. None were true. Only one person knew exactly who she was. Zach watched from Morocco, eyes sunken, voice hoarse with disbelief. He played the video again. Roseline, dressed in a cream suit, stepped up to a podium at a global women's leadership conference in Ghana. Cameras flashed. Applause thundered. She spoke clearly. "I am not a victim of circumstance. I am the product of strategy. I came from the servants' quarters of a man who believed I was beneath him. And now I sit at the table where he once reigned. Let that be a lesson to anyone who thinks poverty is a prison. It is not. It is a beginning." Zach slammed his laptop shut and screamed. Weeks later, broke and running out of options, Zach returned to Nigeria in disguise. His beard had grown. His eyes darted like a hunted animal. At the airport, no one noticed him. But someone was waiting. As he exited the terminal, two men in black suits stepped in front of him. "Chief Obafemi?" one asked. "No. No, wrong person," Zach said, stepping back. "Please come with us." They didn't give him time to run. He was handcuffed and placed into an unmarked van. He thought it was the EFCC. But it wasn't. It was her. The room was dim. The only sound was the ticking of an expensive gold clock. Zach sat in a chair, wrist tied. Across from him, behind a polished desk, sat Roseline. She was calm, regal, surrounded by power. "So this is how it ends," he muttered. She leaned back. "No. This is how it begins." He scoffed. "You set me up." "I didn't have to. You dug your own grave. I just made sure it was televised." He swallowed hard. "Revenge." Roseline stood slowly and walked toward him. Her heels clicked like a gavel against the tiled floor. "Do you remember what you used to say to me?" He looked away. "You said I was nothing. A broom. A girl from the gutter." Her voice was razor-sharp now. "Well, guess what, Chief? That broom swept you out of power. And now, I'm offering you a job." He stared at her in disbelief. "A job? You'll sweep the floor at my new Lagos headquarters." She smiled coldly. 5,000 naira per month. No health insurance." He trembled. "You wouldn't." "I already did." The sky over Lagos that morning was bruised gray, thick with the kind of humidity that made the city feel like it was sweating guilt. Inside the gleaming 20-floor glass building of Roseline Adeobi Holdings, a new era had begun. One that smelled not of bleach and tears, but of ambition, perfume, and freshly brewed espresso. Zach Obafemi stood at the back entrance, wearing an oversized khaki shirt, black trousers that barely fit, and worn-out sandals. He carried a mop and a red bucket filled with soapy water. QQ. The security guard barely looked up. "You the new janitor?" Zach nodded stiffly. "Sixth floor toilets. They said there's a clog." He said nothing and walked in. 6 months ago, his signature opened billion-dollar contracts. Now, it couldn't even open the staff canteen fridge. On his way to the elevator, he passed portraits on the wall. Portraits of the new board. At the center, Roseline. Her eyes stared back at him in defiance and triumph. He looked away. Upstairs, the receptionist glanced as he passed. Her brows furrowed. Something about him was familiar. "Wait," she murmured. "Is that?" But by then he had slipped down the hallway. Inside the executive penthouse office, Roseline stood at the massive floor-to-ceiling window. She wore a charcoal gray suit, hair tied back, lips painted with soft confidence. Ao stood beside her, reviewing a file. "There's been some resistance on the Ghana contract," he said. "They're questioning our legitimacy. They think you rose too fast." Roseline smiled faintly. "Then let's remind them who built this tower." She turned from the window. "I want a press release out today. Something powerful. Remind them that we don't hide in boardrooms, we run them." Ao nodded. Then quietly he asked, "Do you want to check on him?" Her eyes narrowed. "Who?" "You know who." She turned away again, eyes on the horizon. "Let him learn." Downstairs, Zach scrubbed the urinals in the executive restroom. The smell of bleach was sharp. As he knelt, a group of staff entered. "Guy, have you seen the new CEO? She's fire." "Who?" "Madame Roseline." "Bro, that woman's head is there. She used to be a housekeeper. Now she's running the whole city. I heard she bought her former boss's mansion and converted it to a shelter." Zach winced. That was his mansion. Talk about reversal of fortune. They laughed and walked out. He gripped the mop tighter. Later that week, Roseline visited the mansion. It was now called House of Grace, a transitional shelter for domestic workers, widows, and survivors of abuse. The main hall had been redecorated with soft lighting and murals of strength. On one wall, her favorite quote was painted in gold. "Power is not who you crush, it's who you lift." Mama Chisholm shuffled forward, now a resident counselor. "You really did it, Roseline." Roseline hugged her, eyes misting. "We did it." A young girl approached them. "Madam, someone brought a food donation outside." Roseline walked out to find an old pickup truck parked at the gate. The driver stepped out slowly, wrinkled, tired, eyes dull. He carried a sack of rice and 2 boxes of oil. Wordlessly, he dropped them by the gate. "You're volunteering now?" Roseline asked, her voice calm. He didn't meet her eyes. "No one else would hire me." Silence passed between them like cold wind. "Do you want forgiveness?" she asked. He looked up at her, eyes bloodshot. "I want to disappear." She studied him for a long time. "Then start by disappearing from your shame." She turned to go. "Roseline," he called after her. She stopped. "I remember the first day you entered my house. You were barefoot. Quiet. I thought you were nothing." She didn't turn around. "I was wrong." Then he walked away. She never saw him again. A year later, at the International Women in Power Summit in New York, Roseline gave the closing keynote address. A full auditorium hung on her every word. Power, when misused, is a curse. But when used to uplift the invisible, the forgotten, and the wounded, it becomes something divine. The crowd erupted. Later, during the gala dinner, Ao approached her with a flute of champagne. "You made it," he said softly. "We made it," she corrected. He hesitated, then asked, "Do you miss it? The revenge?" She took a long sip and answered, "No. I miss the girl who needed it." He looked at her with admiration. "So what now?" She smiled. "Now, we build."